What's up guys, Justin here with the CGEssentials.com. So the newest version of Blender, version 3.5 is here. And in this video, we're gonna check out what's new. Let's go ahead and just jump into it. Okay, so first thing, you can download this by going to the Blender homepage, blender.org. It's gonna be right here on the front page, and you can click on the download button in order to get it. So there is a post in here that talks about all of the newest things that have been added in this version. So first off, we've got this cool new splash screen model, which you can download and check out. So this is going to be the splash screen for Blender 3.5. This is actually a really fun model. Let's go ahead and let's take a look at some of the new features. Okay, so the hair system is dramatically improved in this new version. Now there's a detailed video on the new hair assets and the hair nodes that are contained inside of Blender 3.5, but in short, these are now powered by geometry nodes, which gives us a ton of functionality when it comes to actually creating and working with hair inside of Blender. And so they've actually provided a hairstyles demo file that you can use in order to see what this can do. Okay, so if we open up this example file, notice how they've provided us with different kinds of hair in here. There's a few different things you can do with this. All right, and so if we jump into sculpt mode with one of these, and so notice how there's a number of different tools in here that you can use in order to do things like combing the hair, right? So notice how I can use this to come in here and make adjustments. So we can actually kind of use sculpt mode in order to set where the hair is and how that's generated. But then you can also jump into the geometry node settings. If you jump into the geometry node settings, that's going to give you access to the geometry nodes, which are doing different things, right? So like for example, and there's notes on all of these, but like for example, this allows you to set how much hair is in here, right? So if we adjust this, we can adjust our density up to get more or less hair. You can make other changes like that. But then there's other tools over here on the right-hand side where you can adjust like how much curl the hair has, right? So if I bring that guide mask down, notice how we can go from curly hair to more like straight hair inside of our scene like this. So we can use that in order to kind of adjust the way that that works and the kind of hair that's created. These are all really well documented, so you can use this in order to kind of see what they're doing. I do highly recommend that you go watch this video about the hair assets in this version of Blender because it's going to get a lot more in depth on how exactly all of this works. And so there's also a cool example file that shows you how you might create like animal fur. So there's different kinds of animal fur in here. And again, notice how I can use this to kind of like comb this or make different changes to it. But one of the cool things about that is you could toggle your geometry node setups. And notice how it's going to give you those different kinds of fur in here, right? So you could toggle this so it's more like a sheep or something like that. You would probably want to adjust this so that you've got the sheep in here, but notice how this is now using this in order to create more like sheep fur. And so notice how there are some different kinds of like different curves and different things that we could add to this. So let's say, for example, let's go back to our Highland cattle for a second. So we're going to go to the Highland cattle and we're going to pick the Highland cattle right here. But if you wanted to add some frizz to this, notice how you can drag that on here. And what that's going to do is that's going to add the frizz geometry node setup on top of this. And notice how you can adjust like how much that's going to do using the geometry node settings in here. So we can use this in order to quickly make those changes as well. So lots of cool changes in the fur department in this new version. And so also note that in this version, they've added some default hair curves that come with the asset browser now. So you could use this, for example, to quickly generate hair curves by dragging onto an object like this and then making those adjustments. So a lot of changes in the hair department in this new version of Blender. They also have a tool that allows you to attach those curves to a surface, create clumping, just a lot of different stuff if you're into generating hair in Blender. Okay, so we've also got vector displacement map brushes in sculpt mode. So those have been added to the draw brush. Basically what these allow you to do is they allow you to use these vector displacement maps in order to quickly add details. So if you download this demo file, it kind of shows you how it works. I can click in here and like, let's say for example that I wanted to add an ear. Notice how I can click and drag in here and that's going to use that vector displacement in order to quickly add that. So that vector displacement is really valuable for quickly adding details like these inside of Blender. And a lot of you know sculpting is not my thing. So being able to come in here and actually just make some of these changes and add these really quickly is just kind of amazing to me. The fact that I can just click and drag these in here using these is super, super cool. Okay, so we've also got an improvement to the compositor that basically uses the GPU in order to do the compositing. And what that means is that now you can interact with your mesh while the compositing is happening, meaning that you're able to actually make adjustments to your model while compositing is turned on. So this should make compositing a lot easier to use. This is something I still need to get into on the channel, but it seems like a massive change compared to the way that the compositor worked in the past. So for our Mac users, the 3D viewport now makes native use of metal, meaning that Blender is going to be a lot faster on the Mac now. So you should definitely download this and give it a try. It looks like they're seeing some fairly significant performance changes with this new update. Okay, so Cycles is now using a light tree to sample scenes with many lights. What that does is that basically reduces noise. Note that there are some things in the release notes that you want to check out. So this is going to work best with physically correct lighting, and it's currently not working on AMD GPUs, so there are some limitations. But if we look at the example right here, notice how with this scene with multiple lights, the noise is significantly less with the light tree turned on. So spotlights can now have a non-uniform scale, meaning they don't just have to be circular anymore, giving us the ability to do non-uniform scale to our lights. And so in addition, they've made some other changes to cycles as well. So for example, the spread property is now significantly less noisy. They've also made some shader improvements in here so that your results are going to be better from that standpoint. And so they've also made some changes to the pose library. So some different tools for flipping and exaggerating. I think this is supposed to be subtract a pose. I'm not 100% sure on that one. They've also added a new ease operator, which is going to make it easier to ease transitions on curves for animations. So there's a number of different changes to Grease Pencil as well, like the natural drawing speed, which is basically going to replay the strokes at the speed at which you drew them, which is going to make them feel more natural. So that's just going to give you the ability to control that speed if you are animating those strokes. And then there's some other kind of like back of house things. So for example, we have support for importing and exporting USDZ files. I've not personally used a USDZ file, but if you do, I can see how that would be extremely valuable. So there's a ton of other stuff down here as well. They're always making changes and adjustments. Those are all listed on this page, which I will link to, as well as to the release notes, which talk about everything a little bit more in depth. Okay, so to me, the hair and then the vector displacement maps are really kind of the stars of this release. I'm really excited, especially for the hair. There's just a lot of cool stuff we can do with that. But leave a comment below. Let me know what you think about this release. I just love having that conversation with you guys. As always, thank you so much for taking the time to watch this, and I'll catch you in the next video. Thanks, guys.